What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. I'm your host, Katie Mox, and coming up on today's show, Shaquille Leonard of the Colts has the most tickets to win Defensive Player of the Year, according to Caesars. But is he the best value pick to win the award? The MLB trade deadline is Tuesday, and we'll take a look at some of the potential landing spots for the biggest names available, including Juan, Soto, and Luis Castillo. And of course, we will give you our Mox Locks. But first, let's welcome in my friend, Munaf Manji of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Munaf, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I know we did a show over on the SGPN.
Yes.
I believe it was for the NBA Finals. That was a lot of fun, but I'm glad to be here with you on Moxie Bets. This is going to be a lot of fun to discuss baseball.
Yes, it's always fun to have a fellow DGen here. I worked with SGPN just a little bit. I did some voiceover stuff for them. And of course, I love to hop on any podcast that they invite me to. But what's going on over there at SGPN? I know that you've been hosting the MLB podcast, which of course is why we have you on today.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. The growth has been crazy over the past 2 years since I've been with them. Yeah, you're right. I do the MLB gambling podcast. I also do the NBA gambling podcast for them. We started a show with myself and Dan Titus last year called the Propcast,
cool.
where it's just focused mostly on player props. So we'll be firing that up for the NFL season. And we also do have an NFL gambling podcast right around the corner outside of what Sean and Ryan do.
Ooh.
So busy times over at SGPN. Yeah.
Yes, I was just talking to them. They obviously have invited me to come on the Niners preview, which I'd be offended if they didn't invite me to come on to that. But Ryan was just like, yeah, it's crazy right now. We're doing double days. So I'm excited to see what you guys put out for the NFL season. And it must be so fun working for those guys. They're the best.
It is. Sean and Ryan are so great. They don't ever tell you no. It's great just working for them. They're always there when you need them, both on the mic and off the mic stuff. So it's been a pleasure being with SGPN.
All right. Well, Munaf, stay right there. First, I'm going to get into my Mox Thought of the day. So according to Caesars Sportsbook, one of July's most popular bets is Shaquille Darius Leonard to win Defensive Player of the Year at 50-1. Overall, he's first in tickets and third in handle to win the award. So you guys know who my pick is. I like Aaron Donald. I like the chalk on this one to win. However, if we're looking at a long shot, I'm going to go with Rashad Gary of the Green Bay Packers. He's at plus 5,000 right now, but he opened up at plus 10,000. He was the number 12 overall pick in the 2019 draft out of Michigan. Look, his rookie season, he only had 2 sacks. And then in 2020, he had 5. And last year, he had 9.5 sacks. Also, his rookie season, he only had 5 pressures. And now he has 47 combined tackles, 28 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles in just 16 games last season. And of course, I remember from the game in Green Bay versus the Niners, he sacked Jimmy twice in that playoff game. Obviously, we know the magic number to win this award is you can't have less than 11 sacks. I think that he could get into double digits this year. So if we're looking at a long shot, I like Rashad Gary, Green Bay Packers, plus 5,000. All right, let's go to covering the bases. We're going to bring Munaf back in as our MLB expert. Munaf, you ready to get into this right now?
Yeah, let's do it. Exciting times. Trade deadline coming up, but a lot of baseball still left. Let's do it, Katie.
Let's do it. Okay, so the MLB trade line, as you just mentioned, is on Tuesday. The first big name that moved on Wednesday is Benny Biceps to the Yankees. Though he went 0 for 4 in his debut against his former team, the All-Star is a big addition for New York. The Yankees are currently tied with the Dodgers at plus 375 to win the World Series. How much does this help the Yankees lineup?
You know what? I'm not sure. Well, we can look at it as 2 ways.
Okay.
I think that number one, he's a significant upgrade of what's been going on with Joey Gallo for the New York Yankees. And as Yankees fans, they know that he's just been absolutely atrocious over the time that he's been with the Yankees. And, you bring in a guy like Andrew Benintendi, you put him in the outfield. This guy he has a consistent bat throughout his career. I mean, this season alone, he's batting .320, an OPS of 785, on base percentage of 387. So he is a great upgrade. He's a great contact batter for this Yankees lineup. So if he's going to be in that leadoff spot like he was last night, I'm not sure if Aaron Boone is experimenting on where he wants to put Benny Biceps. But if he's able to make contact, get on base, then you have your heavy hitters like Aaron Judge behind him. Stanton behind him who could bring him in. I think that's, again, not only going to help this offense, but I think that's going to be a significant upgrade over what Joey Gallo was, I guess, not doing for this Yankees team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Joey Gallo. In 138 games as a Yankee, he's produced a .160 average, 25 home runs, and 191 strikeouts. So really not great. But it's so funny because obviously Benny was a Red Sox, and pretty
Yep.
famously in the 2018 World Series parade, he said, "We scored 16 runs at Yankee Stadium. Suck on it." So I wonder how that's going over in the locker room now.
Yeah, maybe that will be forgiven if the Yankees do go on to win a World Series title this year. But he is a great addition. And going back to your Joey Gallo point there, the funny part is, and I read this morning, and I know a lot of other people that cover baseball were talking about this. Joey Gallo on the season has 37 hits. Aaron Judge on the season has 39 home runs. So that just kind of tells you how bad Joey Gallo has been for this Yankees team.
Yes, very, very bad. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about some of the Yankees' needs. So, of course, they got some help at the plate, but what are some other needs that the Yankees need to make in front of the deadline? Famously, they don't make a lot of big moves, but I think they're going to go for it this year.
Yeah, and I think the one area really is starting pitching, right? I mean,
Yes.
we talked about the offense. You have Aaron Judge, you have Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, all in that lineup. But pitching has really been the issue for them, right? I mean, you have Garrett Cole. He's having a great season. He's had a couple starts here and there where he hasn't looked like the Cy Young pitcher, but
Yeah.
every pitcher goes through that. Justin Verlander had a bad start this season. It happens, but it's really been the question after Garrett Cole on. There hasn't been much consistency, right? They got Luis Severino back, but he's now gone with injury. Jameson Tyone has been a bright spot for them, but after those two guys, it's a question mark. So starting pitching is, I think, what they're really going to have to go after as we kind of approach this trade deadline here. I know they are tied to some names here that we can discuss, but I think starting pitching is really where the Yankees need to focus.
I agree. All right, let's talk about some of those names. Let's talk about Juan Soto, the biggest name, of course, being mentioned right now at the trade deadline. Which team do you think is the best fit for Soto?
Yeah, the two teams that kind of stick out to me that can offer a package, and I think this is going to be the biggest trade maybe in MLB history as far as from
Ooh.
prospects perspective, is probably the two teams. Number one, I'll start with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
That's been one team that's been, from one day to another that, hey, the writers, or I'm sorry, the reporters are saying, hey, the Cardinals are in the front for Juan Soto services. They have the ability to make those trades. They have some top prospects. I'm sorry. Matthew Liberatore is another name that's in that farm system for them, a pitcher that's supposed to be a stud for them. So they have the pieces. And if you add Juan Soto with already probably the National League MVP, Paul Goldschmidt, and Nolan Arenado as well, that is a very, very difficult
Oof.
lineup to get through for the opposition with those three guys in the lineup. And I think the other team, Katie, it's a San Diego Padres, from what I've been reading,
Yeah.
that are at the forefront for Juan Soto services. Is that going to have to include a guy like Fernando Tatis Jr. that we haven't seen this season yet? I'm not sure, but they also do have the prospects that can land a guy like Juan Soto.
So who do you think has the best chance? Do you think it's the Padres?
My gut is telling me I think it's going to be the Cardinals.
Ooh.
They could use another. I mean, I don't think they could use another bat, but they've been batting a lot of injuries on this team as well, both on their batting lineup and pitching. But when you have a generational talent like you can add to your team, like Juan Soto, who's still so young, I think that'll be exciting times for St. Louis Cardinals fans. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals that they get Juan Soto from the Washington Nationals.
Okay, Cardinals. I'm going with the Padres on this one, but we'll have to see how that goes. All right, let's talk Shohei Ohtani, another big name that is approaching the trade deadline right now. Now, so the Angels are fielding calls for him, which is interesting because we didn't think that that's something that they would do. Do you think if they move Ohtani, which team would be the best fit for him? Or do you think he's not going anywhere?
You know, Otani has said all the right things thus far.
Yeah.
He says he wants to play out his contract with the Los Angeles Angels. He just focuses on being an Angel right now, saying all the right things. But it's going to come to a point for the front office is that my gut is telling me, and I think probably a lot of people agree, that he will probably be on a new team come when his contract is over.
Right.
And I think that when you have a generational talent like Otani,
The
you're gonna
Japanese
have to
Babe
trade
Ruth.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you are gonna have to trade him and get the most you can out of Otani. You can't just let him walk. There are teams that are out there that do have the packages available or the prospects available, but it'll be interesting to see because he's gonna have to end up on a contender, and some of the teams that do have the best farm system right now and prospects to trade from are teams like the New York Yankees is another team. The
Oh,
Los Angeles Dodgers, they're always in the mix for these big league or big star acquisitions. So he likes being on the West Coast from the things that I have read.
yes.
Padres, maybe another team, right, Katie? I think that we've talked about with Juan Soto who might end up there. So probably a team on the West Coast. My guess would be a Dodgers. You could throw in the Padres on there as
The
well.
Dodgers would be absolutely unstoppable if they got Ohtani.
Oh,
I was talking to my
yeah.
chiropractor about this yesterday because I do like to talk about betting with just about everybody. And he was telling me when Ohtani came to the league, he said that he wanted to be with a small market team and on the West Coast, which you just kind of alluded to as well. So
Mhm.
originally I was thinking the Mets or the Yankees and yeah, some of these big teams. But if he wants to be in a small market, that'll be interesting. Of course, if he still feels that way, but I do think West Coast is going to be the place for him.
Yeah, and if it's a small market team, I think you could probably throw the Padres in there. They're not, they're not the Dodgers where they are a big market team. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I was having these conversations with other people as well, and I would not be surprised that a team comes in and offers him $500 million for his services because, like you mentioned, he is a Babe Ruth type of player where
Yeah.
he can get strikeouts and hit 40 bombs in a year.
I just hope, I think that he'll go out there, become a free agent at the end of this season. But I hope he does go somewhere else because I feel like his talents are just being wasted in Los Angeles with the Angels, Mike Trout as well. It's like the Angels every
Yeah.
single year, they have the pieces, yet they can't seem to make it happen. It's wild.
Yeah, and they have, like you mentioned, they have Mike Trout, they have Shohei Ohtani. Those are probably two of the five best players in
Yeah.
baseball. But where the front office has really failed them, Katie, it's been in that starting rotation. They
Ah,
haven't done anything to address the pitching year in and year out. The starting pitching is terrible, and their bullpen is always terrible. And when you have generational talents like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on your roster, you have to build around them, or they're
yes.
going to end up walking. I think that's just what's going to happen with Ohtani, unfortunately.
I agree. Okay, so there's also Luis Castillo and Frankie Montas. They are the two best available arms on the market. Where do you see those two landing? We talked about the Yankees needing a pitcher. You like them to go, either of them to go to the Yankees?
Yeah, I think that if the Yankees are going to make a move, it's going to have to be one of these two guys. And from the things that I've read and listened to the reporters, it's that the Yankees are zoned in on Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
He had a great start in his last start for the Reds, possibly, but this is a guy that can be an ace type of pitcher,
Yeah.
and he has been. I know he got up to a slow start earlier this year, but he's been in great form recently. You can put him right there. I'm sorry, behind Garrett Cole, Castillo, and if you get Severino back, those top three guys in the playoffs are going to be very, very hard to hit with Garrett Cole, Luis Castillo, and Luis Severino once you do get him back. But yeah, I think Castillo, Yankees, and I would again throw in the Cardinals as well. They need starting pitching because that starting rotation is decimated by injuries right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you said maybe a slow start, but Castillo had 8 strikeouts on Wednesday night, got a standing ovation from the crowd. Obviously, a nice
Yeah.
farewell possibly for him. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you look at Frankie Montas with the A's, what are the A's doing? They're just trying to get to Vegas?
So, and this has been a conversation that me and Minty have been having a lot about the A's possibly moving to Vegas, and from what I read earlier, I think it was last month or the month prior, that there is some renditions about a new stadium coming for the Oakland A's. I'm not sure how much I'm going to believe into that, but at the beginning of the season, Katie, this team, them and the Reds were the two teams that were pretty much on a fire sale, right? They traded Matt Olson to the Braves. Max Chapman also went over to the Toronto Blue Jays. And the fans are not very happy with the direction this team is going in.
I completely agree. We are an A's family and we've given up on them. My family won't go to games anymore. It's like, how much can you put these fans through and think that they're still going to be loyal? And I know that I think it was Steph Curry, right? Just threw out the first pitch and absolutely no one was there.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because you've seen the numbers that come out about the attendance there. It's only 2 or 3 thousand fans that are actually still going to the games. But you mentioned Frankie Montas. I think that he'll be on the move as well. You got to get something for him as well. The Astros are another team that are looking for starting pitching, possibly. If I know they have like 6 or 7 guys in the rotation already, it doesn't make sense to me, but they're always looking for starting pitching. Cardinals, like I mentioned, and don't rule out rule out the Dodgers either. I know Walker Buehler has been battling injury; he'll be coming back, but the Dodgers are not afraid to make that move. The Astros have been also not afraid to make moves either. So I'm looking for those contending teams, right? Those world champion contending teams like the Yankees, throw in the Mets as well. They've been making moves this season, this past week to upgrade their offense as well. So again, it's the more the merrier, I guess we can say.
The more the merrier. Okay, we talked about the pitchers. Let's talk about a catcher here, Willson Contreras. The Mets and the Astros are two of the teams that have had conversations with the Cubs about Willson Contreras. Between those two teams, where do you see a fit for Contreras? I kind of like him with the Tampa Bay Rays, to be honest.
Yeah, and again, that's a team that can use some help on the offensive side as well, right, in their batting lineup, because they haven't really addressed. This is a team. I think they're like the American League Milwaukee Brewers, where they do have the pitching, but they just don't have the hitting. But the thing about the Rays is that they really don't fork up the money for some of these players. I know they have Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena that they're going to eventually have to pay. Those are young talents and the future of their franchise. But I think going back to the Astros and Mets, I think for me looking at it and here being in Houston is that they have Martin Maldonado, who has been one of the best catchers this team has had from the comfort of pitchers working with him, if that makes sense. I think the Astros are probably a good spot for Willson Contreras. It gives them another bat in the lineup, it gives them some stability. Justin Verlander likes working with Martin Maldonado. So if you want to, give Maldonado a couple of days off and have an extra bat in that lineup as well with Willson Contreras on his days off, I don't think that's going to hurt them. And again, like you mentioned, the Mets, it seems like they are the one team this season with a new owner that they're willing to spend the money to get the World Series title to the metropolitan area.
I'm hoping that we get a Subway Series, especially now that I live in New York. I just think that would be amazing. All right, we touched on some of this above, but what are some contenders with needs to fill in order to make a serious run? You mentioned already the Astros, the Yankees, the Padres, the Dodgers. What do you think?
Yeah, those are the 4 main teams that I'm really looking at that I think legitimately have a chance to win the title, right? I'll start with the Yankees right there since you are in New York. Starting pitching. I don't think the offense is an issue for this team. I think they need to add another starting pitcher, whether that's Frankie Montas or whether that's Luis Castillo. So definitely look out for that. I would be very, very I would be surprised if they didn't make a move. I think another name that has popped up in trade rumors has been Pablo Lopez of the Miami Marlins. He's another top-notch pitcher for them. So the Yankees, as far as starting pitching, the Astros have been linked to maybe having to acquire an outfielder. Names I've seen is Cedric Mullins from the Baltimore Orioles. That has been linked to trade rumors. I think with Michael Brantley being injured, they do need to add another outfielder on that Astros organization's outfield. I'm sorry. And then the Dodgers, I think that the lineup is one of the best that we've seen in recent memory. We talked about it earlier that they may need another pitcher in that just have rotation or maybe to put into the bullpen. I think that's another move that the Dodgers could make. Toronto Blue Jays, I think this was a big, sexy pick coming into the season because they spent so much money bringing in a lot of talent. They've also dealt with injuries to their pitching rotation. I think that's a team that can use another pitcher in their rotation as well if they want to make a push for the playoffs and also the World Series.
Okay, so what is a trade deadline move that you would absolutely love to see? What is your fantasy trade deadline move?
Whew. I would love to see Ohtani on the move.
Yes, I would love to see him with the Mets.
I would love to see it. Yeah, I mean,
it's not happening, but I would love it.
It's not happening, but I mean, we can fantasize, right? That's why we're here. I mean, Ohtani being on the move to whether it's the Padres, whether it's the Dodgers, the Astros, I mean, the teams that we discussed, you could throw in the Cardinals in there as well. I just wanted, because I feel like he's on a team right now that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And you don't want to waste a generational talent like Ohtani who can, he's won the MVP last year. He's always in the conversation for Cy Young. I would love to see him on the move move. That'll be interesting to see if it does happen. I don't think it will, but I think in a fantasy world, if we want to
Yeah.
shake and break Twitter
Yes.
with Ohtani on the move, I think that's one move
That
I
would
would
be
love to
the
see.
Kim Kardashian equivalent to breaking the internet for baseball and for gambling.
It would be, yeah, 100%.
All right, so we're talking about what the best moves are. What has been in the history of baseball the worst trade that you have seen made at the deadline? Obviously, one that sticks out is 2016. The Dodgers traded Alvarez for Fields from the Astros. Not great.
Not great at all. I mean, we kind of see what Yordan Alvarez is doing right now for the Houston Astros. This is good. This is probably going to be a guy, if he's able to stay healthy, is a guy that can get you 40 to 45 home runs a year. And when they traded for Josh Fields to the Dodgers, he wasn't a very good pitcher. His ERA was above, I think, 6 when they traded for him. They had a little bit of stability for 2-3 years when they had him, but what Yordan Alvarez has become as a fan favorite in Houston and what this guy is able to do by crushing baseballs, that is one of the worst trades that I have ever seen the Dodgers make.
Oh, God. Yes. All right. What about the best trade in history? Obviously, what comes to mind is the Red Sox dealing Babe Ruth to the Yankees, which very famously gave the curse of the Bambino for the Red Sox. And of course,
Yeah.
the Yankees went on to win a couple World Series. So, what do you think?
Yeah. This is like way
Yes.
before our time,
But
right?
we
Like
still
way,
know
way
about it.
before our time.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's crazy that the Red Sox traded him to the Yankees. I believe it was for like $100,000
Yes.
at that time. It's equivalent to I think like 1.5 million
Yes.
right now. But I think in that time they won 4 World Series titles. Did the New York Yankees with Babe Ruth, but and the curse of the Bambino, like you mentioned there. But I think that's one of the worst trades that I have seen. Unfortunately, being a Red Sox fan, but this was way, way before our time. But
Well, at least the curse has
yeah,
been lifted.
that's
That's
pretty bad.
exciting, right? There's no longer that. I mean, it lasted
Yeah,
quite a while.
yeah, and I know they bring up the argument that hey, the Yankees have won so many more titles than the Red Sox, but I think over the last decade, the Red Sox are leading in that category.
Okay,
right
let's
now.
talk World Series winner. As trades happen leading up to the deadline, these could likely change. But as of now, let's take a look at some of the futures. Who do you like to win the World Series? I've been on the Yankees this whole time. What do you like?
You mentioned it earlier, Katie. I would love to see the Subway
Yes.
Series
Yes.
as the World Series because, again, that is selfishly because I am holding a 21-1 Mets to win it all ticket.
Ooh.
And this was before they actually got Max Scherzer on their
Wow.
team because it was linked. I got it a few days before, and I was glad to see Max Scherzer actually ended up there. We also got to keep in mind, Katie, that Jacob deGrom is eventually going to be back for this pitching rotation for the New York Mets as
When
well.
though?
We've seen this week.
It's lasting so much longer than people thought. Does that worry
Yeah.
you at all?
I'm not too worried because I feel like if we were in September right now, it would worry me.
Yeah.
But we still have the whole month of August for him to get some more rehab starts in, and then hopefully he is able to be back for that World Series run. You pair him with Max Scherzer, who's been
Phenomenal.
just so good in the postseason, even throughout his whole career. And then they added Chris Bassett. You have Taijuan Walker. You have Cookie Carrasco in that rotation. And who knows? They may add a guy like Frankie Montas into that rotation. So who knows what happens? So they're not afraid to make moves right now. And we talked about the Yankees a lot today already. I mean, they will add another arm in that pitching rotation. Aaron Judge is having an MVP caliber year. He will probably go on to win the MVP. He'll get sent back here shortly. I know he's only on the 10-day IL, but this team for the Yankees right now is different this year. And, you got to give Aaron Boone credit for what they've been able to do so far this year. So Subway Series, I think that would be absolutely fantastic to see.
It would be fantastic to see, especially since I'm here. Not that I would go to any of those games, but I've been watching the Captain on ESPN. I don't know if you've been watching it, the Derek Jeter documentary. Yeah. And there's all this talk, of course, about like the 1998 Yankees. Do you think that the 2022 Yankees is better or could beat the 98 Yankees?
Ooh, I don't know about that. That 98 Yankees team was
something special.
That was a good team. Yeah, that was a special team. I don't think, especially when we talk about Joey Gallo being in this lineup, I don't think that this team is better than that. But look, I think they do certainly have the potential to win the World Series, right? I mean, they've won close to 70 games already this season. And they're going to add more talent to this team. We talked about it here on the show today. So they've run away with the division. But I don't think that they are better than that 98 team with that Derek Jeter was talking about.
Okay, interesting. All right, who is your favorite long shot to win the World Series? I'm kind of leaning towards the Braves to run it back. I feel like they've got the experience and the pitching staff to get back there again. They've been playing pretty well as of late. I'm on the Yankees, of course, and I would love the Subway Series, but
Yeah.
my long shot would be the Braves. Who do you like?
Yeah, for my long shot, I do like the Cardinals, and I like their pitching rotation. I do like their lineup as well. When you have two guys like Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, and maybe possibly adding Juan Soto, it's really just about that pitching rotation. Getting healthy, and if they're able to get another arm into that lineup, I think that this team is well equipped to possibly make a World Series title run, barring health. Obviously, that's a question mark for every single team, but I don't see their odds in front of me right now. But I think that if they are able to, get healthy, maybe add another arm into that rotation, they should be able to, possibly make a run. And again, I feel like the National League is a little more open or wide open this season. For maybe a contender like the Cardinals to get in there. I'm currently seeing the Cardinals at 40-1 right now over on Caesars. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals.
Especially if you think that they could possibly get Soto getting in on it now. I mean, those odds are likely to change. So that's a good point
Yeah,
there.
100%. Yeah, if they get a guy like Juan Soto, I would probably see that number maybe come down to 30-1, maybe 25-1, possibly. And again, if they do add another arm, they're going to be well equipped to make a run in the National League, going up against the heavyweights of the Dodgers and the Mets.
All right. All right, now it's time for Mox Locks. Munaf and I will give you our best bets for the MLB slate today. And the first one, we're actually on together. We got a little bit of a squad right here, which excites me. Marlins money line versus the Mets at plus 100. You got Alcantara on the mound tonight, who is a legitimate Cy Young contender this year. He has an NL leading 1.81 ERA versus Bassett, who has also been playing well. And the last time that these two guys went against each other, there was 10 scoreless innings. But the Mets are coming off of the high of just sweeping the Yankees. I think it's a good spot for them to slip up here. Miami also getting 91% of the money and 49% of the bets. Well, why do you like it, Munaf?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Sandy Alcantara on the mound for the Miami Marlins, and getting him at a plus price. I'm going to take that all day. Look, he's been fantastic all season long. You mentioned the numbers there. He's 9-4 on the year, an ERA of 1.81 at home this season. He is 5-3 with a 1.64 ERA. And he has faced his Mets team earlier, like you mentioned, back on July 10th. It was a Sunday game where they did get that victory 2-0. He was absolutely fantastic in that game. 7 shutout innings, only gave up 6 hits to this Mets lineup. Chris Bassett, the pitcher for the Mets, he's actually faced the Marlins 3 times over his last 5 starts, and they've actually lost 2 out of those 3 games against the Marlins. And again, like you mentioned, that they're coming off of that series against the Yankees, where they're now, hey, we won against the Yankees. We're going to Miami. Maybe there's going to be a little partying going on. This might be a little flat spot coming out for the Mets. So I do like Marlins money line, especially with this. He is going to win the Cy Young, I think, barring health.
He's a lot.
I like Sandy Alcantara with the plus money here tonight, Dave.
Okay, and they have won 4 of his last 5 starts with him on the mound. So I'm glad we're both riding on that one together. Next bet, I'm looking at the Dodgers versus the Rockies. I'm taking the under 11.5 runs, which I know is kind of crazy at Coors Field. It's at minus 105. The Dodgers are averaging 6.2 runs per game versus the Rockies in Colorado all time. And of course, last night they had 13 whopping runs to Colorado's 0. So that's probably why this total has gone up so high. But when I looked at their 10 games against the Rockies this season, they've only eclipsed 11.5 3 times out of those 10 games. And the under seems to be the trend with the Dodgers. The game total has hit the under in 52 of their last 98 games. So if you had played all unders, you'd be up about 9 units right now. So I feel like it's an overreaction to last night's game. It's going to settle back down more to the mean. What do you think?
Yeah, spot on. Julio Urias is on the mound here for the, I believe, the Dodgers here tonight. And there's been a lot of conversation that the Rockies do really well and are doing really well against left-handed pitching this season. But, Julio Urias has been really good over his last 5 games. He's 4-0 with a 3.42 ERA. I know the adjustment is there for obviously being in Coors Field in the altitude, and so that's why there's a lot more runs being scored there. But you're right. I think this is an overreaction of what happened to last night in that game. So I agree with the under here. And like you mentioned it, that most of the games for the Dodgers this season have gone under the total.
All right. You've got 2 more picks for us tonight. What are they?
Yeah, my first one, I am going to go with the Houston Astros on the run line against the Seattle Mariners. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Houston Astros. I'm currently sitting at a plus 122 on the run line over at Caesars. This is crazy to think, Katie, that this is going to be the 6th start already for Justin Verlander against the Mariners this season.
Wow.
And he's already faced them 5 times. It's going to be a 6th start. He's already 4-1 this season against the Mariners with a 2.60 ERA, 38 strikeouts in that span. The 4 victories that they do have when Verlander starts against the Mariners, they've won every single one of those games by 2 or more runs. And, they're coming off of the sweep, or they got swept by the A's, did the Astros. So I'm sure they're a little pissed off.
Craziest, yes.
Yeah, isn't that crazy to think that one of the best teams in baseball got swept by one of the worst teams in baseball? But
that just goes to show any given Sunday, any given Tuesday, anything can happen. It's still professional sports. But yeah, as a bettor, when you think something is an absolute lock and then it goes the opposite direction, you're just like, I know nothing.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think, I think another example of that is like when the Pirates, I believe, went into Dodger Stadium, they swept them as well. So yeah, you never know. It's a 162 game season. Things like this happen. But yeah, Justin Verlander, he's having a Cy Young caliber year, coming into this season off of Tommy John surgery, what this guy has been able to do. 13-3 with a 1.86 ERA on the season. Katie, over his last 5 games, he's 5-0 with a 0.79 ERA. So I think he keeps it rolling here tonight. Give me the Astros run line -1.5, plus 122 against the Seattle Mariners here tonight.
The fact that you're going to get Verlander at plus 122 with everything that you just said, this seems like a no-brainer to me. I'm going to ride with you on that one.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun game to watch here tonight as well. I did have one more pick. I'm going to go... Okay. We're going to talk about your Yankees here tonight, but I'm going to go with a player prop here. Why don't we go with Garrett Cole over 8.5 strikeouts?
That's a lot. That's a high number.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons why I do like it, and I've even looked back last night. I know we were talking offline about the victory that the Yankees did get last night, 1-0. But last night, I believe it was Jameson Taillon that was on the mound for the Yankees, and I believe he did have 8 strikeouts last night against this Royals team. But this Royals team really has been struggling putting balls in play, but they've been striking out at a very, very alarming rate over the season here so far. And I'm trying to pull up the numbers here real quick. So over the last 3 games at least, the Kansas City Royals are averaging close to 11 strikeouts per game. They are ranked all the way at number 29 out of 30 teams. Ooh. So they're the 2nd worst team striking out over the last 3 games. So I think that Garrett Cole, he can go into Yankee Stadium here tonight, really contain the bats here for the Kansas City Royals.
I love that. And you kind of touched on it in an earlier game, but I think the Yankees, having just been swept by the Mets as well, they're going to come out with a little bit of extra fire. And the fact that, who they're up against is so bad with strikeouts. 8.5 is high, but I like it.
Yeah, and also team strikeout percentage. They're also second to last, right in front of the Cincinnati Reds, who are at 33%. The Kansas City Royals are at 30.2% over the last 3 games. So I think Garrett Cole can go in to Yankee Stadium here tonight and maybe get to double-digit strikeouts.
Okay, so to recap, Mox Locks. We are both on the Marlins money line versus the Mets tonight at plus 100. I like the Dodgers versus the Rockies under 11.5 runs today. It's at minus 105. And Munaf likes the Astros minus 1.5 at plus 122. And Garrett Cole over 8.5 strikeouts tonight. Munaf, thank you so much for coming on the show and dropping all of your knowledge. Let the people know where to find your podcast and on social media.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. make sure to get over to the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. So much great stuff happening there. You can find me on the MLB Gambling Podcast. We go 6 days a week. We go through all 15 or however many games there are every day. We go through every single one of those.
Oh, wow.
We'll be ramping up NFL Propcast. If you're a player prop bettor, we'll be firing up those pods as well coming in August. And then when NBA season is around, come join us there as well if you're NBA bettor, NBA Gambling Podcast. We go there every single day. But a lot of great stuff happening on Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com for all the great stuff that's happening there.
I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook.